Turning 75 triggers 5 biological changes in your body that occur whether you've exercised daily, eaten perfectly, or felt young your entire life. These changes don't arrive with warning signs or symptoms you can easily recognize. They activate silently, like switches buried deep in your biology, programmed to turn on at this specific age. According to research from the National Institute on Aging, these 5 shifts follow a predictable sequence documented in thousands of medical studies across the United States, Europe, and Asia. Every person who reaches 75 experiences these changes, regardless of genetics, lifestyle, or previous health status. What shocked me when I researched this topic is that most doctors don't discuss these changes until seniors arrive in their offices with complications already underway. Families don't notice the early signs because the shifts happen gradually behind the scenes. Seniors themselves attribute everything to normal aging without realizing these specific biological processes follow distinct patterns that can be understood and managed. The number 2 change is particularly alarming because neurological studies found it begins damaging the brain 3 to 4 years before any noticeable symptoms appear, making it the most silent and potentially the most dangerous. In this video, I'll reveal all 5 biological changes that activate at age 75. Number 1 controls how fast your entire body continues to age after this critical milestone. Before we start, I need to be crystal clear about something. This video is for educational awareness only. If you're approaching 75 or have recently passed this age, work closely with your healthcare team. Understanding these changes allows you to implement strategies that maintain quality of life despite the biological shifts occurring. Now let's dive into what really happens when you turn 75. Change number 5. Your sleep architecture completely restructures itself. Starting with a change that affects every single night, your brain fundamentally rewrites how you sleep once you reach 75. This isn't simply needing less sleep or waking earlier. It's a complete architectural overhaul of your sleep cycles. Here's why this happens. Research from the Sleep Research Society shows that after 75, your brain reduces deep sleep production by up to 70%. Deep sleep is the restorative stage, where your body repairs tissues, strengthens immune function, and consolidates memories from the day. This stage essentially becomes a rare luxury instead of a nightly guarantee. Your brain starts producing significantly less melatonin naturally, dropping approximately 15% every year after 75. Melatonin is the hormone that signals sleep time and maintains sleep throughout the night. This explains why you might find yourself wide awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling even when exhausted. The mechanism involves changes in the pineal gland that produces melatonin. This small structure in your brain becomes less responsive to darkness signals as you age. Your circadian rhythm, that internal biological clock telling you when to sleep and wake, actually shifts forward by about 2 to 3 hours after age 75. This explains why dinner at 4 p.m. suddenly makes perfect sense and why you're ready for bed when everyone else is settling in for evening activities. Scientists call this advanced sleep phase syndrome. It happens because the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, essentially your body's master clock, starts running on a different schedule due to changes in light sensitivity and hormone production. What makes this change particularly challenging is that your sleep becomes incredibly fragmented. The average 75-year-old wakes up between 15 to 20 times per night, though you might only remember a few of these awakenings. Brainwave studies show these micro-awakenings occur as you cycle through sleep stages. Your brain has more difficulty maintaining continuous sleep stages. To work with these changes instead of fighting them, sleep experts recommend embracing your new schedule rather than forcing old patterns. This means going to bed when you feel tired, even if it's 7 p.m., and using early morning hours productively instead of lying in bed frustrated. Creating a sleep sanctuary becomes crucial at this age. Room temperature between 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit is optimal because your body's temperature regulation also changes after 75, making you more sensitive to heat during sleep. Light exposure timing becomes your secret weapon for managing the shifted circadian rhythm. Getting bright light exposure, preferably natural sunlight, within 30 minutes of waking helps anchor your new biological clock. Avoiding all screens and bright lights after 6 p.m. helps trigger what little melatonin remains. Many people find success with split sleep patterns that were actually common before the Industrial Revolution. You sleep for 4 hours, wake for an hour or two of quiet activity like reading or light stretching, then sleep for another 3 to 4 hours. Research shows this pattern may actually align better with natural human sleep biology. The key is accepting that 8 straight hours of uninterrupted sleep is no longer your reality. Working with your new sleep architecture instead of constantly fighting it reduces stress. The stress of trying to force old sleep patterns actually makes fragmentation worse and can lead to chronic insomnia affecting up to 60% of people over 75. Your sleep might be different, but different doesn't mean worse if you adapt expectations and routines to match your body's new blueprint. Change number 4. Your internal thermostat breaks down permanently. As your sleep changes, something even more dramatic happens to your body's temperature regulation system. At 75, your body's ability to regulate temperature doesn't just decline, it fundamentally malfunctions. Here's why this happens. The hypothalamus, that tiny region in your brain responsible for temperature control, loses about 20% of its thermosensitive neurons by age 75. These specialized neurons detect temperature changes and coordinate responses. When 20% are gone, your body literally can't detect temperature changes as accurately as before. This explains why you might be freezing while everyone else feels comfortable, or why a slightly warm day leaves you feeling drained and dizzy. Your sweat glands, which are your body's primary cooling system, decrease in number and efficiency by up to 40% after age 75. Fewer functioning sweat glands means difficulty cooling down once you get hot. The mechanism involves both reduced gland density and impaired function of remaining glands. Research from the CDC shows heat stroke hospitalizations jump by 300% after age 75 because the body can't cool itself effectively. Simultaneously, your blood vessels lose their ability to constrict and dilate properly in response to temperature changes. This process, called vasomotor adaptation, normally allows your body to shift blood flow, warming extremities when cold or cooling your core when hot. After 75, this system becomes sluggish and inefficient. The subcutaneous fat layer under your skin, which acts as natural insulation, thins by about 30% after 75. This leaves you with less protection against cold temperatures, explaining why winter chill seems to penetrate right to your bones. Your metabolic rate, basically how fast your body burns energy to create heat, drops by approximately 20% after 75. This means you're producing less internal heat even when you need it most. What makes this breakdown particularly dangerous is that your body stops sending clear warning signals about temperature extremes. Studies show people over 75 often don't feel thirsty even when dehydrated and don't shiver effectively when cold. These are critical survival mechanisms that fail. To manage this breakdown, experts recommend keeping your living space between 68 and 74 degrees year-round. This might seem warm in winter and cool in summer, but it represents the narrow comfort zone your compromised system can handle. Layering clothing becomes essential because you need to adjust quickly as your perception of temperature can shift multiple times throughout the day due to blood pressure changes, medication effects, and activity levels. Hydration takes on new importance because your body uses water for temperature regulation. Since you don't feel thirsty reliably, setting hourly water reminders becomes crucial, aiming for at least 48 ounces daily regardless of thirst sensation. Installing thermometers in multiple rooms helps you rely on objective temperature readings rather than your unreliable internal sensors. Many people find success with programmable thermostats that automatically adjust throughout the day. Exercise paradoxically becomes both more important and more dangerous after 75. You need physical activity to maintain what's left of your thermoregulation ability, but you must be extremely careful about exercising in any temperature extreme. Experts recommend indoor exercise whenever outdoor temperatures drop below 40 degrees or rise above 75 degrees. Creating temperature-stable environments becomes crucial. This means having a perfectly climate-controlled bedroom, even if the rest of the house varies, and always carrying extra layers and water when leaving home. Your margin for error with temperature exposure shrinks to almost nothing. Change number 3. Your digestive system enters permanent slowdown mode. As challenging as temperature regulation becomes, an even more pervasive change occurs throughout your digestive system. The day you turn 75, your entire digestive tract shifts into what gastroenterologists call presbyesophagus and presbycolon. Medical terms meaning every part of your digestive system starts moving in slow motion permanently. Here's why this happens. Your esophagus, the muscular tube connecting your mouth to your stomach, loses up to 50% of its muscle coordination after age 75. The mechanism involves deterioration of nerve cells coordinating esophageal contractions. Swallowing becomes a conscious effort instead of an automatic process. That feeling of food getting stuck isn't your imagination. It's your esophageal muscles literally forgetting how to work in coordinated sequence. Saliva production drops by about 40% after age 75. This matters enormously because saliva contains crucial digestive enzymes that start breaking down food before it even reaches your stomach. Less saliva means digestion becomes harder from the very first bite. Your stomach produces 30% less hydrochloric acid after 75. While this might sound beneficial if you've dealt with heartburn, this acid is essential for breaking down proteins, absorbing vitamin B12, iron, and calcium, and killing harmful bacteria that enter with food. The real crisis happens in your small intestine, where the finger-like projections called villi that absorb nutrients shrink by up to 25%. Research shows this creates what scientists call malabsorption syndrome, affecting virtually everyone over 75 to some degree. Even if you eat nutritious food, your intestine can't absorb nutrients as efficiently. Your pancreas, which produces enzymes that break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, reduces its enzyme output by about 40%. This explains why favorite meals that never bothered you before suddenly leave you bloated and uncomfortable. The pancreas simply can't produce enough enzymes to properly digest the meal. The large intestine becomes particularly problematic. Transit time, meaning how long it takes food to move through your digestive system, increases from the normal 30 to 40 hours to sometimes over 100 hours in people over 75. This leads to chronic constipation, affecting 60% of this age group. The liver, while remarkably resilient, still loses about 30% of its mass and blood flow by age 75. This makes it less efficient at processing medications and nutrients, which is why doctors often need to adjust medication doses for older adults. To work with this slowdown instead of against it, eating smaller meals every 3 to 4 hours rather than 3 large meals helps your struggling digestive system manage the workload. Each meal should ideally contain no more than 400 to 500 calories to prevent overwhelming your reduced enzyme production. Chewing becomes critically important. Aim for 30 chews per bite to compensate for reduced saliva and help break down food mechanically since your chemical digestion is compromised. Adding digestive enzyme supplements with meals can replace what your pancreas no longer produces adequately. Many people find relief with broad-spectrum enzymes taken 15 minutes before eating. Probiotic foods become essential rather than optional. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi help maintain gut bacteria diversity. You need to consume them daily because your altered gut environment makes it hard for beneficial bacteria to colonize permanently. Fiber strategy completely changes after 75. While you need it for regular bowel movements, too much can overwhelm your slowed system. Experts recommend gradually increasing soluble fiber from foods like oatmeal, bananas, and sweet potatoes, while being cautious with raw vegetables that your weakened system struggles to break down. Change number 2. Your balance system undergoes irreversible deterioration. As your digestive system struggles, an even more serious change occurs in your sense of balance. Starting exactly at age 75, 3 separate balance systems in your body begin failing simultaneously. Here's why this happens. Your inner ear's vestibular system contains tiny calcium crystals and fluid-filled canals that detect head position and movement. This system loses about 40% of its sensory cells by age 75. Fewer functioning sensory cells means your brain receives confused or delayed signals about where your body is in space. The mechanism involves degeneration of hair cells in the semicircular canals that detect rotation and movement. The proprioceptors in your muscles and joints, those specialized sensors that tell your brain where your body parts are without looking, decrease in sensitivity by up to 50%. Research shows this explains why you might miss a step or misjudge distances you've navigated perfectly for decades. Your brain simply isn't receiving accurate information about limb position. Your vision's contribution to balance drops dramatically as contrast sensitivity decreases by 60% and depth perception weakens by 40%. This makes it harder to see edges, judge distances, and detect obstacles, especially in low light conditions. But the real disaster happens in your brain's integration center, where all these balance signals come together. The processing speed for balance information slows by up to 70%. This means even when your sensors detect a problem, your brain can't coordinate a response fast enough to prevent a fall. Your ankle strategy, the first line of defense against small balance disruptions, weakens dramatically. The small muscles around your ankles lose 40% of their strength, and ankle flexibility decreases by up to 50%. This forces your body to rely on hip and stepping strategies that are less efficient and more likely to fail. The psychological component compounds everything after 75. Fear of falling actually increases fall risk by 30% because anxiety causes muscle tension and reduces the fluid automatic movements necessary for good balance. Your blood pressure regulation also affects balance. Orthostatic hypotension, that dizzy feeling when you stand up, affects 30% of people over 75, creating moments of extreme fall risk during position changes. To combat this deterioration, balance training must become as routine as brushing your teeth. Standing on one foot while turning your head challenges vestibular function. Closing your eyes while standing challenges proprioception. Reaching exercises challenge visual spatial integration. The dual task training approach shows remarkable results. You perform balance exercises while simultaneously doing cognitive tasks like counting backwards or naming animals. This mirrors real-life situations where you need to maintain balance while thinking about something else. Tai Chi has emerged as perhaps the perfect balance intervention for people over 75. Studies show it reduces fall risk by up to 45% because it combines slow, controlled movements with weight shifting, mental focus, and social engagement. Environmental modifications become non-negotiable. Remove throw rugs, install grab bars not just in bathrooms, but along hallways. Improve lighting, especially on stairs and in transitions between rooms. Create clear pathways free of obstacles. Footwear strategy completely changes after 75. Proper shoes become medical equipment rather than fashion choices. You need firm, non-slip soles, low heels no more than 1 inch, and secure fastening. Many podiatrists recommend wearing supportive shoes even inside the house. The timing of activities matters enormously. Your balance is best in late morning after you've been moving for a few hours but before afternoon fatigue sets in. Scheduling challenging activities during this window reduces fall risk. Change number 1. Your muscle mass enters catastrophic decline. Now we reach the change that affects absolutely everything else. At exactly 75 years old, your body triggers what scientists call sarcopenia overdrive, a biological process where you lose muscle mass at a rate of 3 to 5% per year. Here's why this happens. This means by age 80, you've lost up to 25% of your remaining muscle. This isn't just about appearance. This is about losing the tissue that determines whether you can get out of a chair, climb stairs, or live independently. Research from the National Institute on Aging discovered that after 75, your body literally starts breaking down its own muscle for fuel, even when you're eating adequate calories. This occurs because of a phenomenon called anabolic resistance, where your muscles stop responding to protein and exercise the way they used to. Your satellite cells, the stem cells responsible for muscle repair and growth, decrease by 70% after age 75. This means when you damage muscle through normal activity, it simply doesn't rebuild. The losses accumulate day after day. The type 2 muscle fibers, the ones responsible for power and quick movements, like catching yourself from falling or standing up quickly, disappear at twice the rate of type 1 fibers. This explains why simple tasks like opening jars or getting out of low chairs become increasingly impossible. Your motor units, the nerve muscle connections that control movement, die off at an alarming rate after 75. Each lost motor unit means dozens of muscle fibers that simply stop working forever. Your body doesn't create new motor units to replace them. The hormonal catastrophe that occurs at 75 makes everything worse. Testosterone drops to nearly undetectable levels in men. Growth hormone production falls by 80%. IGF-1, a crucial muscle-building hormone, becomes so low that your muscles literally can't receive the signal to grow even when you exercise. Inflammation markers like interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor increase by up to 300% after 75, creating a catabolic state where your body constantly breaks down muscle faster than it can build it, regardless of nutrition or activity level. The mitochondria in your muscle cells, the powerhouses that produce energy, decrease in number by 50% and efficiency by another 30%. This means your muscles have 65% less energy available for any activity. This explains the crushing fatigue that hits after minimal exertion. Protein synthesis, the process of building new muscle, slows by up to 60% after 75. This means you need to consume far more protein than younger people just to maintain muscle, let alone build it. Research shows people over 75 need at least 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, compared to 0.8 grams for younger adults. What makes this particularly terrifying is that muscle loss accelerates during any period of inactivity. Just 10 days of bed rest after 75 can cause the same muscle loss as 2 years of normal aging. Recovering that lost muscle becomes nearly impossible due to anabolic resistance. To fight this catastrophic decline, protein timing becomes absolutely critical. Research shows you need 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis. Spreading protein throughout the day works better than loading it all at dinner. Leucine, an amino acid found in eggs, chicken, and dairy, becomes essential after 75 because it's the specific trigger for muscle protein synthesis. You need at least 3 grams per meal to overcome anabolic resistance. Vitamin D becomes crucial because deficiency, which affects 75% of people over 75, directly causes muscle weakness and accelerates sarcopenia. Studies show supplementation can improve muscle function by up to 20%. Resistance training becomes more important after 75, not less. You need to challenge your muscles to trigger whatever satellite cell response remains. Studies show people over 75 can still build muscle with proper training, though progress is slower than at younger ages. The timing of exercise matters enormously. Morning workouts, when cortisol is naturally higher and anabolic resistance is lowest, show better results than afternoon or evening training. Recovery periods must extend significantly. Allow 72 hours between training the same muscle groups compared to 48 hours for younger adults, because your reduced satellite cells and slower protein synthesis need extra time. Maintaining muscle after 75 requires eating like an athlete, even if you don't feel like one. Consume protein immediately after waking, when your muscles have been fasting all night. Have a protein-rich snack before bed to prevent overnight muscle breakdown. Never go more than 4 hours without protein during the day. What you must do next. Understanding that these 5 changes happen to everyone who reaches 75 removes shame and frustration. This isn't about being lazy or weak. This is about fighting biological processes that nature programmed into every human who reaches this age. First, if you're approaching 75 or have recently passed this milestone, discuss these changes with your doctor. Many interventions work better when started early, before the changes become severe. Second, implement strategies for each change systematically. Don't try to address everything at once. Start with the change affecting you most significantly. Third, track your progress. Keep simple records of sleep quality, temperature comfort, digestive function, balance confidence, and physical strength. This helps you and your doctor identify what's working. Fourth, connect with others experiencing these changes. Support groups for seniors can provide practical strategies and emotional support as you navigate these biological shifts. Fifth, remember that while these changes are inevitable, suffering through them isn't. The interventions described for each change can significantly improve quality of life even as the underlying biology shifts. Which of these 5 changes surprised you most? Have you noticed any of these shifts in yourself or loved ones? Share your experiences in the comments. If this information helped you understand what's really happening at age 75, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more evidence-based health content for seniors. Share this video with anyone approaching or past this critical age milestone. Remember, aging might be mandatory, but understanding the process gives you power to manage it effectively.